Hi, and welcome, guys, to a new episode of the Digital Parents. Today is actually a quite special episode, and I would actually recommend you guys to see this episode on video if you're normally listening at a podcast platform, because we're having a special guest. I've been excited for a couple of weeks to do this podcast. It's been really nice, looking forward to, and it's a quite natural choice to do this first guest entry in this podcast series with this person. Uh, some of you maybe know him, some of you don't, but he's been a very good friend for a very long time, and also his girlfriend is a very good friend of ours. So we're kind of been, let's say, two couples that have been great friends for quite a long while, and they also happened to have a child very recently, and they're both digital nomads. So it kind of fell hand in hand to invite this person for this episode, and the person is none less than Sondre, which is a quite talented guy in the calisthenics world. You maybe have seen some viral videos. You maybe have seen some viral reels. Um, he's a real strongman. Welcome to this episode, Sondre. It's very nice to have you here.
Thank you, Georg. It's nice to be here.
So you're currently in Norway, right?
Yes, in Valdres, up in the Norwegian mountains.
So how is that? Because you've been a city person for quite a long while, and then you've been out traveling, and recently you stayed quite a long while in Indonesia, and now suddenly in the mountain and in the village.
Well, it's super nice. And since we were having a child and everything, we sort of felt it was natural to at least find a home base. And for us, being close to nature is the best way to be. So, and also Sunniva has family in this area. So it was quite a natural choice in that sense.
That's good to hear. I remember actually that we spoke about it, I think like back in 2016 or 17, like what would be our kind of place to live in the future. But I remember at that time that you and Sunniva, like me and Sylvia, were very keen on traveling still. So tell us a bit about your kind of journey. I mean, right now, I think the people who know you from the internet somewhere, they have seen that you are kind of quite of an entrepreneur you've grown into, but that has not always been your path, right?
Yes, it has actually never been my path until suddenly I found myself on it. It was not planned at all. I studied engineering for 10 years, 11 years, doing a PhD in electrical engineering and everything. And, this calisthenics or bodyweight training, acrobatics, hand balancing, all of this stuff was more like a passion of mine. That I did on the side. It was never actually meant to be my job as well. But things happen, and I usually go with the flow. And suddenly, I found myself living off of it, which was. I'm super happy about the situation now. I just never expected it to be this way.
So when you were back, because you started your studies, how old were you when you started your studies?
21, I think, about 21. Yeah.
So you had kind of a gap year, right? Or there.
I had 2 gap years. I was in the army, the year you have to go.
Yeah.
I was also traveling for a year after high school.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I skipped that army part. I hid myself behind my German passport in Norway and behind my Norwegian residency in Germany. So quite glad about that one.
Yeah.
But yes, so then you moved to the Norwegian city Trondheim, where you started your master degree, right, in electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And I think we met just the year you finished your master, if I recall
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes, I remember because we went to Germany for a climbing trip.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
I remember writing my thesis in the back seat of the car.
Like pretty much everywhere. I think you sent it like delivered just before we went from the car into the mountains or something. Like
Yeah, it
that
was
was a
something
bit of
like
a crazy
that.
story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then you finished your master degree, but then you actually this because right around that time you also met your current girlfriend and also mother of your child Sunniva, and you guys decided to stay around in Trondheim for your masters, no, for your PhD, right?
Yeah, exactly. She was also studying in Trondheim, and I think she had one more year at that time as well.
But at that time, like I remember in 2015, I think it started a bit back from there. You were a lot into skating, but then you started to transition very actively into bodyweight training. There was like I think like 2011, 12, 13, like that
Yeah,
years where
it's
you really picked up.
no. I actually started my strength training journey and my calisthenics journey and that stuff when I started studying for my masters.
Okay.
Um, so more or less the same time. That summer before I went or moved to Trondheim to start my studies is when I sort of opened my eyes to this kind of training and lifestyle, I guess. But before that, yes, I was more into skateboarding and that kind of stuff.
And why do you think like it got you so much? Why did you get so hooked? Have you ever reflected on it? Like I think you've always been a bit into like tricking. You know, I think I've seen some video of you trying, you know, some flips and stuff when you've been like way younger.
I've been trying to think about because this is a question I often get, right? You know, when I have interviews or whatever, like why did you get into it? And I think it started way earlier, like a sort of like the reason why I started with skateboarding as well, just doing crazy shit, hanging out with cool people, just doing amazing stuff with your body. In the case of skateboarding, you have a board beneath your feet, and I dreamt of doing parkour, but there were no parkour community where I grew up. So I was like watching um, videos online, dreaming about this kind of stuff. But there were never any, other people doing all of these kinds of things. And at some point, yeah, when I started studying, looking at YouTube, I saw people doing like human flags, handstand push-ups, and at that time, I also wanted to, pack on some more muscle and do some strength training. But going to the gym I tried it and it wasn't very compelling in many
I
ways.
can relate a lot to that. Like I sometimes try to be a bit in the gym, but I just completely lose interest.
Yeah, yeah. For me, that was the case as well. But then I saw these people doing, like online though, doing, yeah, human flags, handstand push-ups, all of these crazy things, and I'm like, that's the kind of strength training that I could get into. And
How was the internet community back then in that field? Because I mean, now recently the years it's been growing, and I would definitely say that you have been like one of the people in the world like really putting the sport on the front line for people. What is it? I think like Instagram and YouTube combined, almost like 1 million people following.
I think if you combine TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, it would be about 1 million, I guess.
But you are there among like let's say the 30 top like free weight people in the world that are like dragging people into the sport. I don't think we're overweighting it. I mean, it's not important, but you are definitely someone who's inspiring a lot of people to move into bodyweight training.
I think there is quite a few people getting inspired from my videos, indeed, and that's sort of why I do this social media thing as well, or why I started more of to connect with people and to possibly inspire people. So it's inspiring to me as well, knowing that other people gets inspired by what I do.
And so let's jump a bit back to Trondheim, right? Because that's when we kind of got to know each other. There I remember the very like split Sondre. You were like all the time kind of, I gotta do my PhD stuff. I gotta hang on to this because I am ambitious in this field. But it was just like growing a lot on the training side, like you got requests for lots of workshops and started, to make money in a slow way, but a good way of it too. And I think at that point you start to realize like this might be a possible career move.
Well, I don't think until perhaps the end of my PhD was when like things really started to happen. And even at that time, I didn't really picture it to be like my main source of income. But I was
Right.
enjoying it. I was enjoying it, and it was nice to um, to experiment with different ways of also making money out of it in a sustainable sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd already been coaching people for many years because I started this student union where I taught people to train with their own body weight and some acrobatic stuff and hand balancing and all this stuff. And this turned into a super nice community that I'm very proud of actually to have created. So I started imagining doing something similar, just in a grander way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I tried a lot of different formats, I guess, like
Yes.
online classes. Started doing YouTube videos to sort of teach my way of doing things. And you know, I just tried different stuff, and things sort of happened.
I think it's a very honorable way into. I mean, this podcast is all about being parents and being digital parents, and I think like a lot of people are interested because doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or own a business. A lot of people are actually facing the opportunity of working remote, and that comes with a lot of opportunities, but it also comes with a lot of challenge. And I think it's kind of an amazing world where we live in, where someone that is going on a PhD path can pretty much just get ripped out of the path, in a matter of 2-3 years, and suddenly get hands full all the sides of work. So it's a pretty fascinating story. But I think what's really nice about your story, and also Sunniva, because and no doubt she has contributed like so much, is
100%.
that you never like pursued a very commercial way of doing it. As you mentioned, like your background in terms of starting a student union or student training group, that was pretty much on voluntarily basis, and you got a lot of the like teaching mentality in a very let's say old school traditional way. And I think a lot of people who are making their way in social medias today are gaining faster revenue through, like, let's say paid collaborations and gear and stuff like that. And you really waited with that a long time. You to this date you're not really doing anything like apart from your own things.
I did a little bit, but only with
You have some
brands that
selected partners, right, which
yeah.
you have been like partnering up with for a long while. So it's not like really which you're not been like swapping fields a lot just to receive a good payoff. And I think
No,
that's
no,
that's a
I've been
very
trying
nice
to
thing.
avoid that actively.
Yeah. No, I think that's very beautiful. And I think I think the position you have, you could, if you wanted to, you could way faster make bigger money in a not so nice way. And you're really focused about giving people tools, and and
Yeah, but
and I think that's
in,
cool.
in this kind of business as well, um, that's not the only sustainable way of doing things. Because if I were to just focus on selling
Short-term
out and
revenue.
getting, yeah, then people wouldn't appreciate what I was doing and showing and who I was being.
Yeah, let's jump a bit into, I mean, I really want to jump into parenthood very soon, but I think we're closing this chapter off a bit. So let's jump into that, because from the very start, I already remember I still remember when you were first time talking about that you wanted to develop a training program, app. You went very, let's put it a simple way, you went very like systematically, mathematically about it. Probably because influences of your background, but I remember already in the very beginning, before focusing on any like marketing or sales or anything, you would like sit weeks and weeks trying to develop good algorithms for how your own app could work, how people could use your training programs in a way that it actually like keeps on
Yeah,
staying
because
relevant.
there's a ton of different training apps and
Yeah, yeah,
different programs out there, and I like back in the days, I obviously tried a bunch of them. You buy
yeah,
a program and then you get disappointed because it doesn't work or whatever. And
yeah,
in many cases, you have these cookie cutter programs, is what you usually call them, when you just, it's obviously how it works in most cases. You just write one program and you give it to 100 people or sell
yeah,
it to 100 people. But every person is different, right? And so they need different tools, they need different ways of doing things.
yeah.
So I spent a long time trying to figure out how to approach this in a way where I could actually help people achieve the goals they want, and having the program as efficient and optimized as possible. Obviously, it's impossible to have the perfect program unless I would be face to face meeting them, spending a month training together with them to know their exactly know their level, to know their weaknesses, to know their strengths and all of this stuff. But to sort of find a nice trade-off between these two worlds, so the cookie cutter program on one side and the one-to-one coaching on the other side.
Yeah. So for someone who doesn't really know calisthenics or body weight training at all, if you would give like a 20-second, 25-second breakdown for someone here in the podcast, what is it all about?
Well, calisthenics is basically body weight training. So you train strength training with your own body weight. However, instead of using like when you're using weights, you put on more weights to get stronger. That's
Yeah.
basically how it works. In calisthenics, you set yourself certain goals, and those goals would be moves or exercises such as handstand push-up or
So
a hidden
more
flat or a muscle
more
up.
more difficult positions. You just increase the difficultness of
Yeah.
of the challenge.
So you have to sort of split up these exercises into more manageable pieces, and then you have to progress by altering the exercise itself. So, for example, in human flag, which is a kind of iconic position, I guess, you would first have to make
It's
it.
when you, for those who you don't know, it's like if
Yeah,
you're on a, what do you call a ribbeveg? A rib? No,
a
what
Swedish
is it?
ladder, I think.
Swedish ladder. You go like vertical, both hands on the pole and vertical stretch to the side. No, not
Yeah.
vertical, horizontal.
So obviously you can't just try to jump into the position until you're able to do it. You have to break it down, make it much easier so that you can actually hold the position. And then you would
Yeah.
make it gradually more and more difficult. So that's the sort of difficult part about calisthenics compared to traditional strength training, because you have to either be very creative in how you make it easier and then stepwise harder, or you have to do a lot of research and to find out how to do this in a measurable way, so to say, because you need to track your progress and make sure that you're getting stronger when you don't have a reference such as weight plates.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's sometimes really hard to see progress, but also once you do it, you really like seeing, wow, I can do some things other
Exactly.
people can't do at all. So
Yeah, and it's a different kind of fulfillment. You're not just getting stronger by putting on some extra plates. You actually learn something entirely new, and it also
eh,
includes a lot more, balance, coordination.
yeah,
It's much
and
more.
a lot of the challenge, you're actually not losing as fast as you would lose muscle from the training gym. Like once you're able to do a certain things, like of course maintaining is important, but but it doesn't just disappear. It's a bit like learning to walk. It's like, of
Yeah,
course,
I
you
mean,
don't walk.
muscle memory, sure, for sure, yeah. And also because of the ranges of motion that you use when you do this kind of training, you do get a lot of more strength in your tendons and your joints, which tends to stick around much longer than actual muscle. Because muscle you can lose, but you gain it faster again after you had it before.
Yeah.
But then you have actual joint and strength in your tendons, which will stay much longer as well.
No, it's really cool to hear. But let's move a bit into parenthood. It's important to give people what they're coming for.
I
Well,
don't have
you
nearly as much experience in that field, though.
just touching the waters. Well, we're on the same boat here. Well, you guys had a quite um, surprising way into parenthood, right? Because you had planned to go to Indonesia and stay there for quite a while. That was kind of,
Yeah.
you closed your chapter in Norway on a kind of a bit undefined period, and then suddenly things changed. Do you mind sharing a bit about that? Not like the details, but how did that feel?
Uh, well, we were in Bali. We were planning on staying there indefinitely, I guess, just until we were sort of tired of it. But we were already, talking about starting a family.
Yeah.
But I mean, as soon as we started talking about it, it suddenly just happened. So it was a bit of a surprise, um, happy surprise, I guess. I was slightly in shock the first few days, but we definitely knew that we wanted to do the whole birth in Norway.
Yeah.
So we stayed in Indonesia for a few months while Sunil was pregnant, which was also sort of a bit. We got a bit nervous a couple of times because we didn't have dengue fever, but we have roommates with dengue fever, and
Oh,
it transmits via mosquitoes.
yeah.
But when you live with people in the same house that has dengue fever, then it's much more likely that you will get it because the same mosquitoes bites you that bites them. Yeah, you know the
Yeah.
deal. And that can be quite dangerous, apparently. So yeah, there were a couple of episodes there where we weren't super happy to be in Bali during her pregnancy.
But
And because
the
in
Indonesia
Norway,
chapter closed a bit way sooner than expected, because I remember you kind of were setting yourself a bit up to, I want to build up my businesses from here. It's a good place, being a digital nomad. There will be people around, in the same kind of
yeah,
bubble and mindset.
yeah. So we sort of, and also because healthcare in Norway, um, you get all of that stuff free just for being a Norwegian citizen. So it was natural to go back to Norway to deal with all of that stuff, and to be close to family when we have what would be the first grandchild of both our sides.
Yeah.
But we always imagined, as soon as we're ready, we'll find a nice place to go again.
Yeah. Yeah. But so let's go a bit into one of our major topics in this podcast. Like, for you, the transition into like fully digital nomad came very fast. Let's say, put it that way, because I mean, for us it's been like a process for many years. We've been at like, I mean, we have been it for probably 7-8 years. Even though we've had offices in Norway, we haven't had to like stay there. But for you, it kind of happened very fast and you went out, but then you came back to Norway, but you're still kind of completely free and just working digital. So
Yeah.
so how has that been for you, not even considering fathership or parenthood, but just going from being used to going to the university for your PhD to suddenly have to control every day, your whole week, your whole month? There is nobody putting any timings on you, really.
Well, yeah, like you said, it was a sort of an abrupt decision, and suddenly I was 100% reliant on this kind of income,
Yeah.
and I had to learn a lot of stuff, you know,
What
business
is like
wise.
what is like basic stuff people underestimate a lot from being a business owner, and especially maybe a digital business owner?
Just accounting is something I never imagined myself doing. It's one of those things that I never found very interesting, but suddenly
Yeah.
had to do a lot of.
Yeah.
um, and then it's obviously all you need to have some sort of product, right? uh,
Yeah.
Whether it's a service or an actual product. And when
So just to
you
break it down right now for people listening, without going into depth again, what are your kind of major sources of income? Because you have established a product that you sell, right?
yeah
That's your
that's
main, or building up income. It's not the isn't your digital services more of a main income still, or is it balanced
Yeah,
now?
no. My main source of income is this training app that I sell, and I spend a lot of time, updating it, making
Yeah.
it better, communicating with the students within the app,
Yeah.
upgrading the services surrounding it, such
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
the community platform,
And
making new tools and stuff like this.
the physical product.
Yeah, that's we started like half a year ago, or we started planning it 1.5 years ago, and it
Yeah.
took a lot of time, with the sourcing, and that's been a crazy freaking journey.
So how do you personally balance yourself between, because I think this is a case that happens to a lot of people who move into digital entrepreneurship, but also people who have remote jobs and maybe several remote jobs. How do you balance yourself? What do you like to do? Do you have like certain days where you go like, this day I'm focusing on this day I'm focusing on this?
Ooh, depends.
Or you wish it would be like that, but you're actually just
I
mixing?
wish. Yeah. So as a person, I'm kind of unorganized and not very well structured. Luckily, my partner, she knows how to sort of structure my thoughts.
Okay.
She should tell me, like, when I'm stressed out. You should tell me, like, you just need to sit down, write a list, and start. Because there
Yeah.
are so many things happening all around. I get overwhelmed sometimes.
How
Um,
often does it happen in a month where you have just like kind of a medium little like breakdown and just like, God, what have I got myself into?
in a month or in a day?
Depends what you want to reveal here.
No. It happens occasionally. I wouldn't say like complete full-on mental breakdown, but I'm not super good at handling stress, because I usually don't get very stressed. So
Yeah.
in the cases where I actually do get stressed out, I'm not very good at handling it, I guess.
But
Like,
I feel the same. Like that's I think that's when we're moving into perks and challenges of being a remote worker. Let's not like categorize if you're a business owner or not, because when you're having this all time, blah 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 all the time, also a lot of that social environment from a normal workplace disappears. And in a normal social workplace, if it's not a really bad company or a company in a very bad state, the people help balancing each other. They've been
yeah,
through a
yeah,
lot of processes, they've been through a lot of stressful situations before. They know the environment knows how to balance itself. So very few people like really have like these kind of like, shit, at workplace. But that, I think that happens more among remote people, because sometimes you just don't know where to go with the pressure.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, in many cases, you stand more alone. You're more. I mean, you're 100% reliant on what you produce,
Yeah.
and the services you deliver. So if you have a regular workplace, you know that stuff can happen, but it'll sort itself out.
And
Whether or not,
others will be there to help pick you
yeah,
up and
exactly.
pick up the work.
Um,
It won't be the end of the day.
yeah,
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 so that's actually a thing I think a lot of people are underestimating a lot, and I think also quite a few remote workers experience this because I've talked with people, I've seen it, that once they disappear from that office environment, sometimes you can suddenly feel very alone about things. So I think it's an important topic. But you mentioned Sunniva, your partner. You balance yourself quite well there. Tell us a bit more about that. I think that's a very interesting topic because I think a lot of remote workers and also definitely like people who are in relationships tend to turn remote workers, both of them. It's just like a thing because if one has all the freedom, the other one seeks it too.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And also, you tend to, partner up, I guess, with like-minded people
Yeah.
somehow. And in our case, we sort of also our skill set matches up very well. She's more, the creative kind of person, while I'm more
Okay.
the calculative.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I'm the nerdy one,
Okay.
to put it in that way. So in terms of building a business, which is what we've done. We sort of fulfill each other very much in that sense, where she can, you know, build up our branding while I do all the nerdy stuff.
How is a normal like work week for you? Would you feel like now after 2 3 years, you're settling in a bit in your own kind of, let's call it, home office in a routine? I mean, it's been
No,
tough
I
the last
wouldn't.
months, but
I wouldn't say. I still don't have a routine. Especially now with the baby and everything going on. I'm basically just doing whatever I need to do whenever it needs to be done.
okay, yeah, yeah, I can see myself in your position. I think I have a bit more experience in that case, luckily, but I definitely see where it's coming from. Like
Yeah,
I just did a recent episode some weeks ago where we touched that topic quite a bit of like how your prioritizations change by default by your hormones once you're like becoming a parent. And I think it's been a quite beautiful thing because for me, I've always been a very ambitious person. For me, not having ambitions has been equal to like wasting your life. It sounds very harsh, but that's actually how my mind always have been, and I don't think I can change it. I've tried, and it doesn't really work. It just goes back to that default automatically.
yeah,
And now with Akira, suddenly like there has been a new default option available, which has been so much easier to choose. It's not been there before, and that default is called just chill the fuck out, man. Hang out with your family.
yeah, yeah.
And, and
I can relate
yeah,
to
and
that.
that default hasn't been so much, and it's not just on Sakira. It's like everything that is family. It's like friends, parents, uncle, aunts, cousins. It's just gotten a whole new dimension. And before the last years, I really built up a very strong routine on being a digital nomad because I was like, I'm a very organized person, probably opposite as you are that, and I hate, when every day just goes by like, let's see how it goes. I can't stand it. So we actually nailed ourselves in a pretty established routine, like waking up, doing exercise, working a couple of hours, then being, social and having our day, and then working again a couple of hours in nighttime. I enjoy a lot working like 2 3 hours of effective work. Like after most people are in bed, I feel like I'm at my best. But yeah, this routine has completely vanished in some ways now being a parent. But you never had that. You're saying like before your daughter was born, you also didn't have like a routine you went into?
No, no, not really. I had like today. I'm gonna do my stretching routine. I'm gonna do my strength workout.
Yeah.
and then I'll do whatever I'm able to do in between.
So you'll just like take it when you have like time and space to work, and you'll open the computer and see what's going on next on my task list, or where did I stop yesterday?
More or less, it's like an open task list, because yeah, I don't think since I started my own business that my task list has been empty,
Never,
or
never,
ever half empty.
never. It's always just increasing.
Yes. So, there is obviously some prioritization going on. There are some things that needs to be done a certain day or whatever. And sometimes there are these things that you want to do, more like passionate projects.
You think they will improve things. You're ambitious
Yeah.
that this will help things in the future, but they're extra work. There's
Yeah,
like
exactly. So yeah, and sometimes it feels like I'm just running around putting out fires.
yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. But let's go. I think this is a very interesting topic which we're touching now, is like how to build up prioritizations and how to like follow instinct when needed. Maybe you have some tips and tricks to share on the field. Like for example, I change techniques all the time. Currently, I'm in a phase where I have two major techniques. One is first of all, I start with my like calendar, and I put in reoccurring events, blocking out times every day in the morning and every day in the afternoon where I'm just like off, like exercise, family, free, no work can happen there. And so those go just like every day, same times. And then in between, I schedule most days. I've scheduled focus areas. Let's say like contact with stakeholders or board, in this organization, or like sales initiative in this company this day. So I'll have like focus days, and then for all those focus periods, I have own work lists, which has helped me a lot being like chilled out. So I know every task will progress week by week,
Yeah.
but nothing will happen at once.
Sounds nice. I don't have anything like that. I'm just doing shit.
But so how does it work for you? When do you feel like this task now needs to be done? And what about if the task you're currently doing also really needs to be done?
Then I just have to start with one of them and then do the other.
Well, I think everyone has to figure it a bit out themselves, isn't it? Like
Yeah. So usually I start the day, or at least my work day, with answering emails and sending out emails of things I need answering for.
Okay.
To get an answer as quick as possible.
Yeah, but
Other than that,
there you actually have one of your base routines then. So you try to get rid of like communication and management first thing in the morning.
yeah, in most cases, yes.
It's very. Do you sometimes have like a complete delete of your like? Sometimes do you feel like so many tasks are hoarding up where you just like, well, right now I'll just like delete most of it and I'll see what pops up again in my mind to be like actually needed to be done?
I don't think so. No.
You haven't added?
No. Big. No, it's an interesting idea, I guess.
I've done it like
reset everything.
I think I do it like once a year, not like scheduled, but just like now's enough. No, I can't see these tasks anymore. I'm never gonna do them anyways. Just delete everything, and then I'll restart next Monday, and I'll see what pops up in my mind to be prioritized.
Yeah. I guess it's an interesting idea. But yeah, I never really tried anything like that.
Dangerous thought. It feels really weird when you're doing it, but your mind actually is much smarter than you think. So
Yeah.
most of them pop up again, and
Yeah.
I tend to say to myself, you mentioned those like ambition projects, the passion projects, the ones you don't have to do, but you really want to do them anyway. Those I
Yeah.
tend to say to myself, because we tend to get a lot of them when we were entrepreneurs, and there can be a problem, you know. So they are diverting focus on core activity.
Yeah, but still
From
though, those are the, you know, the backbone of why we're doing what we're doing as well. So it's
that
important
is true.
to also allow yourself to do the things that you actually enjoy.
Yeah,
Because there, as you probably know, there's a lot of boring tasks like admin and all of this, the stuff that needs to be done. You know, communicating with people you don't really want to but need to communicate with, and it's important to also, you know, stack up on those passion projects, and do do something that feels a bit more fulfilling, I guess.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, let's get back a bit in the end of this podcast to actually parenthood in this whole picture. How when you like, what's the major difference for you and Sunniva now that you have a third person in between, like, and before, where you know there was a lot of time for business?
Well, you just said it, time, that's the biggest difference.
Did you feel like you
um,
lost some way, like you're one of the core partners that you work with, and like
well,
it's
for
very harsh
us,
saying.
yeah, I know what you're getting at, and because we were in fact business partners, and we are, and we don't have any other employees. So in that sense, you know, there's a lot of stuff that you know we need to put off for a later time, or there's a lot of less available time between the both of us, if that makes sense.
When you both are focused on work, like, you mean there's
Yeah,
less time where
like
you.
like before, we could sit down and do like a couple of hours where we were discussing something, and I'd she'd like scribble down some ideas and make some graphic designs, and I'd
Yeah,
like hang over the computer and sort of you know, play ball with her, and then we'd
yeah,
work
do it on the go.
together at the same time often. But now, you know, we obviously want to spend time with our daughter both at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so whenever, and usually, you know, I'm the one running most things, so I'm usually the one working, and
But
then I
I
have to
think
do
it's
this.
natural. I think it's very
Yeah, yeah,
natural
of
that the
course, of
mother.
course. But in this case, I have to do all of this stuff alone, right? Because especially we, you know, our daughter as of now has no chill button whatsoever. So whenever I have to do some work, it's always alone, right? And
Yeah,
I don't want to, you know, bring my computer down in the living room while we're playing with our daughter, anyways.
yeah. No,
So so in that sense, right now it's more, you know, um,
it's almost a bit
um,
like, it sounds almost a bit like, you know, the traditional when both parents are working in the companies, and now the dad is still actively full in work and the mom is at home, but you're actually
yeah,
just home both.
yeah. Yeah, I just woke up to the second floor.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. What were your, did you expect it to be like that, or how did you picture it when you knew that you would become a
I
father?
Well, I didn't really know what to expect. And I guess I expected it. I don't even know what I expected, to be honest. I didn't have a lot of expectations. I was more like looking forward to meeting this new person, while just naively thinking that the rest would, you know, figure itself out somehow.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of it. It normally does. We tend to over stress a lot, don't we? Like, you know, like concerned about this, concerned about that. Like in the end of the day, what you need is like not stressing too much, food, water,
Yeah,
a place to be, you know. It
yeah, yeah.
doesn't have to be much more complicated.
No, no, exactly.
And I think that goes a bit back to what I mentioned earlier. Like it put in that new default button in my head. Like if this is just causing you pain, if this is just causing your stress, is it worth doing it? Like, do you need that money? Do you really
Yeah.
need it? Or can it just kind of fall a bit apart and then maybe it reestablishes itself, or maybe it works out? Do you always need to be at your 200% best?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely right now, like the past few months, we haven't been focusing on scaling. We've been focusing on just trying to keep things running. And
Yeah,
then once we, get more, more comfortable in our new situation, we can take it from there, I guess.
yeah. Maybe you also figure out, that it's just nice how it is here now. Like we
Yeah.
don't need to make more out of it.
No, no,
Probably
yeah.
not, because probably we'll always have that entrepreneurial gene and mindset, but maybe, I keep on wishing for it sometimes, like, oh, George, wouldn't it be amazing if your mind just suddenly goes like, nah, I'm good here.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting thought because at least for me, it's not necessarily money that drives, or not at all actually. Obviously, I need money to live, but it's the all of the other things that sort of drives.
The creating, the passion,
Yeah,
and the being proud of what you're able to put out and seeing people using it. And yeah, I know what
yeah,
you mean.
yeah, feeling useful somehow.
Yeah. What about what do you say about we try to see if we can bring in Sakira and Nuri Sol, if they want to join. Let's give it a try.
We can see. I can go down and see how things fares.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Let's do it.
I'm not sure. Maybe she's asleep.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll check with Sakira.
Yeah.
All right, we are back, but Norisol was sleeping, so no Norisol for Sakira today. She's finding a big interest in the microphone.
Nah.
Do you have something to say?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I
uh,
agree. I agree.
so I'm quite curious. We want to jump in some last parts here in the podcast. I mean, Sakira is Norisol is 5 months, right? She was born late November or early December.
Late
Late November,
November,
like, but you had your due in early December, right? She was born quite early.
mid-December. Actually, she was 3 weeks
Yeah,
early.
yeah, I can recall. You had quite a bit of rough start at the hospital, and like staying some days.
Yeah, yeah. She was yellow or whatever you call it. So she had to go through some light treatment and stuff, but nothing like everything went well. Otherwise, I guess.
Yeah, but it's nice that it turned out good. How was that? First weeks for you. I mean, you had like an intense period coming. We call it the dragon scream. She has. It's my fault that she does it, because when she was like 3-4 months, we did it a lot to her, like and now it's her like favorite sound. Always when there is something she want to join, it's the dragon scream. But yeah, how were the first weeks? Let's say, like, I mean, you had like Christmas and New Year, and did you manage to just kind of like shut work a bit down, or was it a lot
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on?
The first few weeks. No, no. The first few weeks, I'd already set up everything to be as little work as possible.
Yeah,
So work wise, it was all right. And we had a lot of time to settle down with our new baby, and just be a family, I guess. So the first few weeks were quite nice, and also she was rather calm,
yeah.
I'd say, compared to the next few months after
But but
that.
but but so when did you officially kind of start to pick up work again? Like after New Year?
No, I was still doing a little work every
just to
day,
maintain?
and then yeah, I had to, because um, otherwise stuff wouldn't have
Yeah.
worked out.
So what would you say? What was your average ending up at the day? Like an hour, two,
Probably a couple
couple
of
of hours?
hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd
I
say.
think that's something people
And then
underestimate so much of being a business owner is things like which other people take for granted, being an employee, like, in Norway we call it birth period, when that's when the mother of course is off work, but the father also gets completely off work and paid from the government. Uh,
yeah,
2 weeks
2 weeks.
around there, and everyone takes that as a given, you know and I mean, even though
Yeah,
we get it, we as business owners can also apply for the same compensations. It's not about the money. It's not that about money. It's
no,
just
no,
like
no,
I can't just stop like 100%.
no. It's impossible. At least when you don't have employees to take on the tasks that needs to be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. But it's fun you say it, like you go like, yeah, we had rigged ourselves up that it wasn't so much work, but you were still averaging at a couple of hours a day, so most people would consider that quite a bit
Yeah.
of work. So
Well, yeah, I guess so, but
I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I'm just saying
uh,
people got to be aware of that. It's not just all like perks, flowers, and money and beautiful times.
no, 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 for sure not. Especially owning a business is a lot of work. I On an average, I spend much more than 8 hours a day. Uh, I'd say.
I can praise myself lucky that I've been averaging at a 6 hours a day the last 2 years. So, but before that was not the case. Not the case. Absolutely, we probably
Yeah,
average more at 12 hours. But we've been very hard on
yeah,
ourselves, to be honest. Like we had a different entry into parenthood than you, because for us it was very planned, but also we had like I don't know if we told you, but I think so. We had a miscarriage, but on a very early stage, like 2 years ago. So it was like
yeah,
basically just knowing that we were pregnant, and then a couple of weeks later, like miscarriage. So it wasn't that tough, but obviously it was a bit of a scar. But we had prepared ourselves for being parent for a while, and there was one thing that we was very clear on: is like, once we're going into that phase, we're not gonna average more than 6 hours a day, whatever gonna happen.
yeah,
If things go bad because of that, then that's the way it's gonna be, because it's an
yeah.
important phase in your life. And I know it's tough, but I would also, like, as a friend, recommend you and everyone else, out there, just try as hard as possible, if possible. Try to get
Yeah,
down on the
well,
hours.
right now, I don't have that 8 hours available to work,
Yeah,
anyways.
that's probably good. Even that's
So
probably
now,
good, because things
yeah,
rearrange themselves so that it works out.
yeah,
All right. I think we've been touching a lot of interesting topics. I think probably people gonna have some questions, and I mean, you're always free to ask them, put them in the comment field, or DM us. But I think I want to round off with one important topic, and that is, uh, what would be yours, Sondre, kind of key moments to focus on if you are a remote worker or you are a digital entrepreneur, and you are considering or become knowing that you're going to become a parent, and you both of you as partners will be at home. You'll have to balance work, you'll have to balance the being with the kid. What are your key takeaways so far, and what do you kind of try to make yourself, like, being more considering more, like, what is important?
I guess trying to set yourself up to minimize the amount of workload, as a sort of a preparation, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, like right now, I wish, like, we're sort of thinking about investing in employment or employing at least one
Yeah.
person. And right now, I wish I'd done that
Before. So
before,
the training would have been done.
because yeah, because that's a time-consuming process too,
Absolutely.
right? Both finding the right person and training that person to do
Yeah.
his or
Yeah.
her job. So that's like the one thing I regret, I think, coming into this business
Yeah.
wise, because that would have taken a lot of load off my shoulders. All of these typical admin things that needs to be done, but are boring as
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important topic, like setting yourself up and trying to minimize. Like, I think that's an important question. I did, Akira. Don't take my AirPod. Or you want to hear Sondre? You want to hear what Sondre has to say? Taking, what tasks can you live with someone else doing and maybe losing that income yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To me, I would have been completely fine focusing more on less on money coming in and more on time taken off my shoulders, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
But yeah, I think that's also something I am still feeling, even though I don't work too much, is it's hard to know that your kid is at home and having to move away to do some work. It's a very tough feeling. It's not very motivating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one and major takeaway I also would make people very like concerned about. Think like, how many hours are you actually willing to go in another room or go somewhere else to get work done,
Yeah.
and try, be realistic, like sit down and try. Okay, if you say I want to do 4 hours a day, then before you get a kid, try to do like 3 weeks with only 4 hours a day, because I think people overestimate what they get done in 4 hours.
Yeah, I think so too.
It is a challenging thing. Well, it's been a blast. I hope you have enjoyed it too, Sondre. It's been really nice having you
Yeah.
in here, and it's also so nice
Th-
to have someone else, reflecting on these topics.
yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I think if you listening, either if you listen on podcast only or if you've been following along on video on YouTube, if you have any questions, like put them in the comment fields, and it might be a while till we do any sort of a follow episode, but I think it's anyway interesting for people to discuss. I think other people are listening, who are having input on this, and yeah, so it's been a blast. Thank you so much for joining, Sondre. I mean, we will see each other very soon on a personal level, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward so much to come to Norway and see you guys at Norisol, and it's gonna be so fun to see Sakira
Oh
and
yeah,
Nori
me
playing
too.
together.
Yeah.
Gonna be a
Yeah.
different lifestyle.
For sure.
Maybe they can play a bit and we can sit in a room and work.
Yeah. Maybe that's how it's going to be.
All right then. It's been really nice, and thank you everyone for listening in. We'll come up with a new episode in about a month's time, and that time we'll be touching back with Sakira closing in on her almost full year. So it's been very fast. All right, Sondre, it's been really nice. Thank you for joining,
All right.
and goodbye.
Bye.
Nice, det var dritbra.